Everyone has a different way to judge a club's list. Some people will look at just the pure football talent, others will go deeper into specific roles and functions in a team, and experience might be worth more to some. There has never been any official ranking of club lists by the AFL or Champion Data because all these variables are nearly impossible to measure and combine into a grade or score. But let's give it a go using a couple different systems. The first is using a website called Draft Guru, which is a fantastic website for details on every AFL player, club, draft and trade. The link for it will be in the description below. For every AFL player drafted, they have given them a simple letter grade from D being the lowest to an A+, which is the highest. It's based on games played, goals kicked, and individual and team awards. It's self-explanatory and a great way to give a simple value to a player's career. Now, not all of you will agree with every single rating. There really isn't too much variation. With this D to A+ grade, we can apply it to all 18 AFL club lists. Looking at an entire team using this method is more based on talent and individual play rather than how well a team fits together, so that's important to keep in mind. The grades used in the current AFL lists are also based on recent form, not the overall career of a player, so that's another key note. At this stage going into 2025, who has the best overall talent using this system? Adding up the A grade and B grade talent, which is obviously above average, the Collingwood Football Club and Hawthorn Football Club sit at the top of the competition. Collingwood have 4 players rated at least an A in Nick Dacos, Josh Dacos, Dan Houston and Darcy Moore. That is not the most out of the 18 clubs, we will get to that later, but it's their B players that blow the rest away. They have 18 players on their list at that B grading, tied with Fremantle and Port Adelaide. New recruits in Harry Perryman and Tim Membry fit in that group, and most of their important role players such as Will Hoskin-Elliott, Darcy Cameron and Patrick Lipinski also are featured. Now Hawthorn, who have 3 A grade players, which is only middle of the road, make up for that with 19 Bs, the most out of anyone. Jai Newcomb, James Sicily and Dylan Moore are those A's, and the B players alongside them are full of their consistent stars in Carl Amon, James Warple, Will Day and many more. Both the Pies and Hawks have 22 players given a B grade or higher, which is a full starting 22. It's a good sign for both clubs that their teams are deep with talent and above average players. There are a couple standouts on the opposite end of the spectrum, and one club might surprise you. Richmond is the only side going into 2025 with not a single A-rated player. They have just 9 Bs as well, which is also the lowest in the competition, and have 14 Ds, which is the equal most with St Kilda. Their highest rated player is Tim Taranto, who comes in with a B+. Richmond might get spike improvements from some of their youth, and maybe some older players can get back to form, but as of right now it's clear with this system, they do have the worst list in the AFL. Other low ladder finishing teams in North Melbourne and West Coast have just 2 A-graded players apiece, and also have the most mediocre talent right now, coming in equal first and second respectively with their C players. But the other club to focus on is Essendon. There was a debate throughout 2024 about how good their actual talent is. Well, according to this system, it is near the bottom. The Bombers have just a single A-rated player, and that's their captain Zach Merritt, which leaves them 1 spot ahead of Richmond. They equal 7th with Bs, having a total of 15, equal 7th with Cs with 14, and equal 3rd with Ds, totaling 12. This answers the question around Essendon's talent. It's very weak at the top, and full of average to low-end players. There are also a few interesting points to go alongside the best and worst lists. Carlton, Brisbane and Melbourne are tied with 5 A-graded players each. The interesting thing is, 11 AFL clubs have at least 3 A's themselves. It proves that the top players at each club are in a similar bracket and have only a 1 or 2 difference with the top 3 clubs. The big differential is with those B and C players, and it makes sense. It's become clearer over the past few seasons how important the role type players are in winning. Hawthorn, who have 19 Bs, have 10 more than the worst team in Richmond, 7 more than St Kilda, and 6 more than Carlton. Besides GWS, all the top 7 sides last year were at least equal 5th or better in terms of those B-rated players. That even contribution has become so important, and it makes sense using this grading method. It's the biggest takeaway from this list. Most of the teams have similar top and bottom level talent. It's probably why the AFL has become such a close comp, but the difference in finals and big games is the middle tiered players. Having a few more Bs over Cs and Cs over Ds in simple form might just be the separator to get ahead of the rest. That's the basic level of each team's talent. What about how they work together? Wheelo Ratings, again the link is in the description, updates every single week of the season their team ratings. It has nothing to do with wins and losses, but is calculated through an offensive ranking and defensive ranking. These are based on champion data level stats like transition scoring, stoppage scoring and much more. At the end of 2024, including the entire final series, there was a clear top 4. Number 1 was Hawthorn, second were the Premiers Brisbane, third was the Western Bulldogs, and fourth was Geelong. Now this is based on 2024 data, so a team like Collingwood, who had lots of injuries, only ranks 9th, but when they're healthy, they should be a stronger team from opening round in 2025. But Hawthorn is the standout here again. They finished first for defensive rating and third offensively, and when you pair that up with Draft Guru's ranking of their list, it looks all good for Hawthorn fans. Brisbane, who will equal third for A and B rated players, is also second here, which is really no surprise, and Geelong, who were equal third alongside Brisbane for talent, also made this top 4 in Wheelo's ratings. Combining both elements together, Hawthorn is the number 1, with Geelong and Brisbane around equal second, and then the Western Bulldogs, Fremantle and Sydney are level below. The Giants rank poorly in the grading of their list, but Wheelo had them the 7th best team, and Port Adelaide were the opposite. Their list was equal 2nd best for Bs and As, but they were only 10th for offense and defense. The beauty with the AFL is we can all try and create a model to figure out who the best team is and who will beat who. The reality is no one knows, not even the highest level AI predictor with an infinite amount of stats. The past few seasons, with more close games than ever, proves this. But going into the year, there is a set of teams who do have great talent. Richmond is the big outlier, and North Melbourne and West Coast are a touch ahead, but really the rest of the teams aren't split too far apart. Everyone has some talent, so the teams who can gel the best, have strong leadership, and mentally be the toughest, will have the greatest chance of success. All of these things were nailed by Brisbane in 2024 and likely will be the important elements we see in 2025's Premier.